Thank you so much for coming, whether you are an early performer, early professional yourself, or you are a manager or a business leader that leads someone. Webinar, this LinkedIn Live is made for you. So I want to briefly just introduce myself. My name's Laura Massetti, and I am the founder of Real Work Ready, which is a professional readiness program that is focused on supporting early professionals who are entering the workplace and also the businesses that support those early professionals. So that is what I've created my business on. And really, the reason why I have is because I have been an early professional myself, and I had such a passion to accelerate my career. And all the feedback that I received during the early part of my career has been you have to wait, it's experience. And I've learned a lot of things the hard way through that journey and failed meetings, not knowing when to speak up, not knowing how to really communicate with my manager, what their expectations were. And then as I continued to grow within my career, I became manager myself. I managed teams, I mentored, and I started contributing at a higher level. And I wanted my team to really accelerate and contribute early and often and as soon as possible. That experience piece of it, I started realizing that I was also saying that to my team members as well. So I wanted to really provide an opportunity where I could create a source of information and coaching around how to get early professionals up to speed and contributing into the workplace as soon as possible. So I've spent over 15 years in the hiring and managing side of things, as well as some of that within my early professional development myself. I've also been a two-time C level as well. So I have a great deal of experience and I've created a vision to help provide some peace of mind and guidance for those that were once me at one point. So our conversation is today is really focused on the titles that you've seen coming out recently. And they're scary ones, right? And it's all about AI, how AI is impacting the workforce, how it is making it impossible right now to apply for jobs because it's bots competing against bots. It's impossible to really show your value and show your face and really get that first introduction or interview that I know you're all hoping for. And it's not just headlines. This is real data that's happening. So we've heard the most recent one that the Anthropic CEO is saying that 50% of white collar jobs are going to be impacted by this. But most specifically, who's getting hit the most by this right now is the earlier professionals themselves. And we're going to talk a little bit more on that. I do not want this to be a fear mongering event where you think that because of AI, there's no opportunity for you. And that is not the premise of this. That is more of how to position yourself knowing that this is taking place right now. So I'm going to move to the next piece. So the runway that many of us had early in our career where we were able to learn, do the grunt work, get exposure to things, have managers and teams be more patient with us as we learn the ropes inside the organization earlier on in the career. That runway is gone. Why? Because AI is taking all of those simple tasks that at one point I thought was really brutal work that I didn't want to be doing, but it was a huge opportunity for me to grow, understand, to really understand all the dynamics of the workplace, how to be a professional, what's expected of me. For me, myself, that probably took about 5 years to get to a good, confident place where I feel like I could have been put in front of a client, where I felt like I was able to handle myself independently. I was very clear of expectations. Now the bar has now moved for early professionals because managers are looking for their team to immediately come in and to provide impact. So all of the things that AI is now taking over and accelerating for us, it also accelerates the things that we're not so good at. So if we're not able to communicate clearly, if we're not able to prioritize, if we're not able to close the loop, AI just helps us do that faster and it's magnified. Another huge piece of this is the visibility. Your work is no longer able to speak for itself and be visible for itself. Why? Because AI is able to assist in a lot of that. So, how do you show off? How do you come across as your best professional self when you do enter the workplace? So that's really what we're going to be focused on today is the fundamental things that remain and what needs to be enhanced and come across even better now, given the world of AI. So, to reemphasize on this point, you are not behind in your journey. This is all natural. If you enter the workplace, you're not sure which direction to go in, you're not sure exactly how to show up to a meeting. That's all part of growing in your professional career. The path that you thought that would be even a year ago is just different. So you are now needed to operate on a different level that even you probably weren't taught in high school or university or however you enter the workplace. So it's making a lot of this unpredictable. However, my philosophy is about taking control on what you can. And part of that control is the human element to work, the human element that allows you to stand out, be effective, and operate at a superior level to continue to accelerate your career despite AI being in the picture of things. So, as part of this, I've developed a proprietary performance model framework. So, this is 6 key behaviors that your managers are looking to evaluate on that usually won't come up in your performance review. And for those that the word performance review might be new for, performance review is really the feedback that you get on your work performance. That could be on a quarterly basis, yearly basis. It depends on the organization that you're at. But these are the things that your managers are looking at you every day for to see if you are an effective and contributing employee. And these are the items that really help to accelerate your career. So we're going to go into each of these, but I want to pause here and leave this on the screen for a moment because this is truly fundamental of all of the unspoken qualifications that managers and businesses make in determining if you're going to be a solid contributor and if they can entrust their business and responsibility into you. So going on to the first behavior here. So I start off with this organizational awareness piece. And this isn't just the org chart itself. This isn't just who's the manager, who's the boss, who's the employee. It's really understanding how decisions get made throughout an organization. Whose buy in do you need? Whose support do you need? Whose decision making is influenced in all that you do? It's absolutely fundamental. And a manager is completely invested in making sure that their teams understand how does decision making happen throughout the organization? Who do you need to pull into things? Who do you not need to pull into things? That's one key one. Number two, execution and follow through, closing the gap between what you've started and what you're getting done without being chased. And again, this is usually something that's not within a traditional performance review rubric that you'll see out there. But this is a huge thing where a manager will turn to someone else on their team and say, my goodness, where did that activity go? This person hasn't followed through on their tasks. So this is fundamental. Managers absolutely do not want to chase you for updates. So how are you providing that level of visibility to the work that you're doing, the progress that you're making every day with your work performance? Managers do not want to ask for status. They don't want things to fall off on their own. They want to know that you own what you're doing and they could trust your deliverables. The third one is communication and clarity. This one is huge. And AI has really assisted in a lot of this. I think that most of us use some form of AI in order to communicate our points in a more concise way. However, not everything is done just on email. There is a huge back to office push and even virtual meetings, of course, as well, that our communication that we have as professionals, whether that is written, whether that is in person, whether that is virtual, is absolutely more fundamental now than it's ever been because that is our differentiator as professionals at this point. So, saying what you mean, understanding the format that it needs to be in, how does your communication speak when you go back to that organizational awareness to whom, how, and when? And how does your communication really make an impact? So, much more on this, but for me, out of all six, this one's absolutely fundamental and more important than anything else right now. Okay. This one we double skipped over, so I'm gonna go on to ownership and reliability. Can your boss trust in everything that you do? When you say you own something, are you able to actually own it, follow through with it? Because you need to come across as a reliable employee. And that's really where your career acceleration happens, is by finding those within your team that you can trust in work and know will follow through exactly how they said they do it. They never need to wonder if the work will be done well and as communicated. The final one here, which is always the most difficult one to talk about, but really the one that follows you throughout your career, is professional presence and credibility. And there's a lot that goes into this, but how do you show up? How do you show up in meetings? How do you show up in writings? How do you show up when projects, disputes happen and things don't go right? Because things often don't go right, and your reaction and your involvement in those matters make all the difference on your professional brand that really follows through with you both inside and outside of the workplace. How are you prepared for meetings? How are you prepared for conversations with your manager? The other part of this that feeds back into that credibility layer is all around trust. How is trust built into this as well? So your credibility is what builds that trust that happens every day. So I want to go over a couple scenarios right now of things that happen in real life. And this is a big part of what real work ready is going through these different scenarios and understanding how reactions happen. How do we handle these sort of situations? So you, the employee, I sent the Friday update email asking, it was thorough and I had everything covered. Okay. That was the employee's perspective. Sent the Friday meeting update as expected, job closed, right? Even use ChatGPT to do it. So job closed, right? The manager says, I had to read 3 paragraphs to find out what the project was, and now that it's behind. It didn't lead with the risk. So this is absolutely huge. And a big aspect that managers look for is how do you identify risk early and often and communicate that risk in what you're doing. So that's one example, and we can go further into that offline at any point. The second part, priority ask. So you as the employee, I asked my manager what they wanted me to prioritize this week. I was being collaborative. And that sounds great, right? I asked my manager what's most important. How the manager hears that is they can't decide what's important and what's not without my involvement. I can't promote someone that needs me so involved in that decision making to triage their week. Now, same situation, both really valid points, but understanding how your manager would perceive that is super important here. And a lot more that can go into this one as well. But something that I'd really like for all of those listening to do as we move forward is bringing decisions and not questions. Questions are good, right? But questions happen most when you come forward with a plan in mind. And that's what managers really look for. Here's my plan. Does that match with the priorities that you've had for the business and for me? Very small change, but completely changes the context in terms of how you are perceived to your manager and seen as credible, trustworthy, and able to prioritize. The third one here, and it happens to all of us, is something gets behind. I told my manager the deliverable will be late because legal hasn't gotten back to me. Sounds normal, right? You let your manager know that the lawyers haven't provided any feedback. That's where you're stuck at this point. In the manager's point of view, they told me it was late. They didn't tell me what they were doing about it. And this piece is huge. Do you want to be the employee that drops problems off at your manager's desk? Or do you want to be the employee that has pre identified some action, some solution, or a series of questions that are action oriented that the manager can react on? Those are choices that, as an early professional, you need to make and understand. And again, they make all the difference in how you're perceived. So My request for this week is if this happens to you in some other aspect of your life, if you're not working right now, think about another way where something falls through, something you need to prioritize, or you're giving some sort of update on something, and think through your response and put yourself in the lens of those six framework topics that I talked about early on, and how would the manager think about that? So if you are only going to take away three things that you can put into effect on Monday, this is what I'd like for you to do. So, firstly, leading with the risk. This is absolutely huge. The worst thing, and I've done this plenty of times before, is hiding that risk because sometimes that's really scary. Sometimes it's really difficult to say, hey, this is a risk for the business, my contributions, my project, because you think that there is a way that it could be solved for. And it's very possible it could. But the worst thing that you can do is not being clear on what that risk is at the beginning. So in every update, verbal, written, Slack, however the communication is happening at your organization is this project is at risk because of X. I need Z. Very clear on that. And there are often managers that are doing too much. It is your responsibility to elevate this and make it very, very clear as possible. Thereafter, you can layer in the other news that's important, but risk is absolutely number one. Number two is bringing decisions and not questions. They're expecting that you've come with your own experiences, your own point of view, and having decisions led by questions to follow up is absolutely fundamental. And there's a very good chance that your decisions that you came with are not correct. And that's all part of learning and that's all part of coaching that managers want to do for you. But they do want to see that you've taken a really proactive approach in thinking through things yourself. And that's really how you get promoted. That's how you move on to the next point in your career. Own the loop. When something slips, when something falls, you notice it first. You name it, you say it, you bring it to the attention of your team. I noticed X. I'm doing this next. The blocker is X. You've now brought in more people into the boat with you to be able to support you. And then on the other side of that, you're also able to make how you fixed it really visible. So, what I mean by that is if you're working on a project and there's an issue that happens in the project and you're able to solve for it, a way that you're able to make your contributions very visible to your leadership, to your business is by showing how it went from problem to solution with your leadership involvement. That human element of how you connected that is fundamental. So, little bit on what real work ready is and why I've created this. I wanted to provide folks with the 5 year shortcut that I was never given, that most people out there were never given. There is a lot that happens at the beginning of your career. You stumble into learning, things are practiced often, but a lot of that is not able to be done now, as we discussed at the beginning of the call, because AI is such a fundamental part of that. And I got so unbelievably frustrated by this. You need more experience. And trust me, you absolutely do. There were also a lot of things that I've noticed that I did not need to experience in order to learn. I wish that someone taught me these things. I wish that someone told me some of the unspoken rules or expectations within the workplace. And that's exactly what the framework is about. So, this is really the shortcut for early professionals to be able to get better on that path. And also for managers to spend a lot less time helping their teams pull through that really challenging part of early on in your career as you're trying to figure it out. There is a self-paced curriculum that's available, and that is hosted on school coaches. There is a private peer community, so you are with other early professionals that are navigating through the same challenges, working on the same skills that are so important to progress your career. And finally, you are really getting that high touch coaching feedback. So, my offer today is I am opening up 10 founding member spots. We already do have some folks in the program, but this is a very early launch. This will have founding pricing, full access to me. There's some other things that go into that with some one off coaching sessions as well. And you're first in line for everything else. I love for you to book a call with me at realworkready.com/apply. And we will have a 30-minute call to really see if this is a good fit for you. It's not a good fit for everyone, but really what I welcome is early professionals who are looking to get ahead, get perspective, really accelerate their career. So realorpready.com/apply. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining. I am going to be hosting these once a month on a different topics. I am here to support it. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You could also find me on Instagram at Real Work Ready HQ. And that is all. So I thank you so much for joining. Please send me a DM. Love to get your feedback on this, and we will do this again soon. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining.